Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha, the Masha Yah, his voice. Hear, O Yasharol. Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one Yahuwah. This is Brother David coming to you again to ask another question. Is the dark moon the new moon? Well, according to astronomy, it is. Why is that, Brother David? Because they're using telescopes. They can see when the light begins to grow on the moon on the 30th day. The 30th day equals the 29th day in the evening. Tell me something. Are we supposed to use telescopes for our sighting? Or does it have to become visible to the naked eye? Well, let's search it out. First, let's see what date they start their feast. My Jewish Learning. Passover 2021 begins at sundown on March 27th and ends Sunday evening, April 4th. What would March 27th be? That would be a Saturday. So when does the feast start, Brother David? In the evening. So what day would that be? Sunday. So they're saying that their Passover and their Feast of Unleavened Bread is going to be from Sunday to Sunday. Do you see something wrong? Only the trained eye will see it. Only the elect will know. Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread is a high, holy day. Your Passover and your Feast of Unleavened Bread has to fall out on your regular weekly Sabbath. Here's the problem. The Jews, IUIC, and many other groups, their Sabbath is fixed on the Gregorian calendar. They go to their lunar event and they find their feast days. But then after the lunar event, they come back to the Gregorian calendar to find their Sabbaths. They say that the Sabbath is on the Gregorian calendar. But yet, their Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread fell out on Sunday. Can you see it? The Most High, Yahuwah, is making a mockery out of all of these groups who follow a regular weekly Sabbath that is fixed on the Gregorian calendar. So right away you see the parallel between IUIC and the Jews. They both keep the Saturday Sabbath on the Gregorian calendar. They both added a 13th month to the calendar. They both called themselves Israel. We all did when we were in our embryonic state. But now we've become full grown. Our eyes are open. We know that the people of the book are called by their Father's name. If my people who are called by my name, if they will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, like this, keeping the Sabbath on Saturday on the Gregorian calendar, when you turn from this and come back to him, then will you hear from heaven. He'll forgive your sins and heal the land. Hey, here's something else. They both start from the dark moon for their counts. I thought you said that the Israelite brothers, or IUIC, started from the full moon, Brother David. That is right. But we know that the full moon had to grow in its light. Trace it back from their date, and you'll come to the dark moon. That's why both of them are going to have their Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread on a Sunday. Isn't our Father magnificent? He's showing you that they have all gone wrong. All you have to do is stay on point. Hanuk, chapter 73, verses 1 to 4. Do you know the book of Hanuk is under attack? And if you don't know what I mean by Hanuk, it is Enoch. It's being attacked from all directions. The book of Hanuk was written and preserved for a righteous race that would arise in the last days. That means it's not written for everyone. The people who will attack it have nothing to do with righteousness. If they did, they would not be reading commentaries and then coming to say that this book that the Father preserved for us in this time so that we'll know how to get back on his time, they wouldn't be saying it's apocryphal. Do you understand what I'm saying? I spent 3 years proving every word. It's accurate to the letter. Have they done that? Every day I would go out just to check, learning everything that he said about these bodies. It's true. Even astronomy agrees with Hanuk. Who doesn't agree with him? The Israelite brothers, the church, and quite a few other people. Because the book of Hanuk tells you something. First of all, it calls our Ma-Sha-Yah, calls him the Son of Man, not the Son of God. The Son of Man. Then it also tells you that salvation is for his people, seed, bloodline, the children of Yahsharol only, and that everyone else would be under them. They didn't like that. Absolutely nothing Hebrew. So we need to take this out. Verse 1. And after this law I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. Her real name is Asanya. Verse 2. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in definite measure. Verse 3. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. It says like. The moon has 354 days. The sun has 364 days. And when her light is uniform, in other words, full, it amounts to the 7 parts of the light of the sun. The sun has a full 7 parts. And once they're adjacent to each other. The line of sight, where there's no obstruction, he will transfer a full 7 parts of light to the moon, and she becomes full. Verse 4. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. And thus she rises. And her first phase, this first phase means her first day, comes forth in the east on the 30th morning. So when the sun rises on that 30th day of the prior month, she receives her light. And she is riding too close to the sun that day, so you can't see her. The sun overpowers her. But in that evening, when the sun dips below the horizon in the western sky, she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase, the first day of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the portal where the sun rises. Do you understand this, the 30th day? Listen. The 14th day in the evening is when you are to start your Feast of Unleavened Bread. What day would that be then? It's the 15th day. When you describe the lunar event, you start off by saying something like, the 29th day in the evening would be the 30th day. The 30th day in the evening would be dawning towards the first day of the next month. A month can only have 30 days. So Hanuk has explained to you exactly how it works in the sky and what your first day will be. And later he's going to tell you what she looks like. Here's the illustration. Do you see the one that says new? Now you understand why they call it new. Because they can see the light grow on her with their telescopes. But we cannot. You see, the new moon, as they call it, represents the 29th day in the evening. That's how your days start. The 29th day in the evening is the 30th day. And then she is dark. She goes into the conjunction. You cannot see her with the naked eye. But let's put a sun in between the one called new and the one called young. And when the sun rises, according to Chanakh, she receives 1/2 of a 7th part of her light, which equals 1/14th part. And then she's riding with the sun in that day. You cannot see her because the sun overpowers her. But in that evening, in the western sky, as the sun dips below the horizon, she becomes visible. And it constitutes for you the beginning of the first day of the month. Verse 5, and the 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty without light. Remember the illustration that you just saw? You only saw that slither, right? Let me read this again so you can see how accurate Hanuk is. And the 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty without light, with the exception of the 1/7 part of it and the 14th part of her light. So the one that said young, that is your renewed moon. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light, her light amounts to the 1/7 part and the half thereof. Verse 7, and she sets with the sun. She's in the conjunction. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with him and receives this 1/2 of 1 part of light. You cannot see her. She's too close to him. He overpowers her. But in that night, really it's evening, in the beginning of her morning, it looks the same as the solar morning in the east. I'm going to bypass what's in these brackets. The moon sets with the sun, and that's when she becomes visible. But not for long. When the sun goes down and it turns dark, the moon goes down with him, and then she is invisible for the rest of that night with the 14 parts and the half of 1 of them. Verse 8, and she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun. Now she's separating herself from the sun. And in her remaining days she becomes bright, full, in the remaining 13 parts. That's the 15th day, which is the 14th day in the evening. And here she is, Asanya. Ayares, the sun, has transferred his light to the moon, and 1/2 of a 7th part. And on this day, in the evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, the 30th day in the evening, she becomes visible. And not for long, because once the sun goes down and night comes, she will set with the sun, and she will be invisible for the rest of the night. Now, we have some people who tried to separate the moon from the sun. You know, they try to go to what they call an Enoch calendar. It doesn't work that way. Even Hanuk does not separate the two bodies, because the moon doesn't have any light. They have to work together. This is a clock, brothers and sisters, in the sky. And every clock has its own function. And this is the way the sun and the moon functions. They have to work together. You cannot separate the two. The sun is the watch and the face. Just picture that. It's fully functional. Has all the light and everything. But the moon is the hands on the watch. Without the hands on the watch, you cannot tell what time it is. It's just the way the Most High created it. And it works perfectly. The calculations are unbelievable. Do you know what the scientists have said about the way that the moon and the sun work together? They said it is impossible for there not to be a watchmaker. Who created this? Yahuwah. He is the watchmaker. And he dictates how to tell time. He did not choose the Europeans. He did not choose the Israelite brothers. He did not choose the Jews. Who did he choose? In order to convey this message to his people on how his clock works. He chose Hanuk. And Hanuk were to write this down for the righteous race that would arise in the last days, and that is You, my brothers and sisters. Now, every household that hears the sound of my voice on the 12th of February in the evening, you are to be out there to spot the renewed moon for your house, to make sure that we have the right day. And then what we will do is compare our sightings. We need confirmations. That's the way it was done in the kingdom. The trumpet sounded, and it would sound all around the kingdom because all of the people sighted it, and it would go from town to town to town to town throughout the nation of Yahsharol, and the people would know that their new month has begun. Practice this. For you're going to need this knowledge even when you return to the promised land. Enoch, chapter 80, verse 2 to 3. Now let's speak about this elusive 13th month, which in all reality is the second month of the year. The Jews said 2 years ago that the reason they added this extra month was that the barley harvest was not ripe. Let's see what the Most High has to say about this event. Verse 2. And in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened. Can you see it? Are we in the days of the sinners? Sin means transgression of the law. Are we in the days of the sinners? Even the ones who you thought were teaching you to keep the law, in all reality, they are teaching you to transgress the law. Let me just give you one point. Keeping a Saturday Sabbath on the Gregorian calendar. And their seed shall be tardy on the lands and the fields. And all things on the earth shall alter, and shall not appear in their time. The moon is not appearing in its time. And the rain shall be kept back, and the heaven shall withhold it. The rains are not appearing in their time, brothers and sisters. Verse 3. And in those times the fruit of the earth shall be backwards, and shall not grow in their time. And the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. These are the days of the sinners. This has nothing to do with climate change. The Father turned the dial. He's showing you some things. He's showing you that the people who are in the land, who are making these claims, that the barley harvest was not ripe and they had to add a 13th month, they're not his people. They're not his hidden ones. If it was us, we would have his precious rain. But he withheld it from the Gentiles. Now let's see what happens when we return. Joel, chapter 2, verse 23. I would advise you to read all of Joel. He's speaking of our return to the promised land from the lands of our captivity. Verse 23. Look at how he starts. Be glad then. Who's he talking to? You, children of Zion, and rejoice in Yahuwah, your mighty one. For he have given you is a pronoun. It describes a person, place, or thing. When you read all of Joel, you will learn who the target group is. The children of Yahsharol. For he have given you, O children of Yahsharol, the former rain, moderately. And he will cause to come down for you, there's that pronoun again, the rain. Hey, he's held it back from the Gentiles. They're living in a desert. They're using irrigation. The former rain and the latter rain in the first month. Doesn't this make sense to you? Let me explain something. In the first month, after you spot the renewed moon, you count 14 days. Then in the evening, you'll be at your 15th day. You have your feast for 7 days. You'll wind up on the 21st day. In the 21st day, in the evening, is your next Sabbath. How does our Sabbaths work? Every single month from the lunar event. Your first Sabbath on the 8th. Your second's on the 15th. Your third is on the 22nd. Stop. 21st in the evening. Start your regular weekly Sabbath, which will be the 22nd. Are you getting it? And then, after your weekly Sabbath, the day after the Sabbath, the book says, then you are to bring your sheaf unto the priest, and he's to wave it for you on your behalf. If he gives you the rain in the first month, like he promised, and he keeps his promises, you will have a sheaf to present to the priest. Not the second month. As long as I've been here in America, there's only one model that I know for the rains. April showers bring May flowers. April is in the second month. You know how our months straddle each other. March into April would be the second month. The Father says he's going to give you rains in the first month, not the second, not the 13th month, or whatever month they try to add to the calendar. Because this is only for you, his hidden ones. This is how you know. Just by learning the law and reading the prophets, you know that the people who are over there today, they're not you. And they can't be. Because the children of Yahshua, the children of Zion, Yahuwah's people, are in the lands of their captivity. Who is over there in the promised land? The Gentiles. Their time is up. But when you return, he's going to give you the rain that he withheld from them. And the promised land shall be like a Garden of Eden. Our next video would be on New Moon's Day. Look for it. It's going to be magnificent. Shalom.